I actually think the number 2 spot is more interesting now, league wide. That's the crazy thing. Like Dallas wins the pick and, people are going to conspiracy theory this whole thing. I think it's way more interesting who has number 2 now. San Antonio getting the number 2 overall pick and jumping into that range and also having 14.
Because of Giannis.
There's the Dylan Harper of it all, with Dylan Harper, like not being a tremendous fit next to Steph Castle and De'Aaron Fox. But also the Giannis idea of it, or any other star. Like we don't have to necessarily like limit it to Giannis, in my opinion. But like the fact that they now have this massive trade chip, they have the Wembanyama piece available to them, and they have like these 2 lottery picks plus Fox plus Castle. I mean, this is setting up for the Spurs now, regardless of what they do. Say they trade it, say they keep it. Whatever you want to do, it is what it is. This team is now setting up to be like the force of the West along with the Thunder moving forward to me. That's kind of where this goes. Like we'll figure out, do they try and accelerate their timeline or do they try to, long play it and see what happens? But just with the sheer assets they have available now to them at their disposal, having the Dylan Harper pick essentially, this is now a serious organization to contend with. And they were previously. They have Wemby, who was a top 5 player in the league until he got hurt. And they went out and got De'Aaron Fox. But like, this is now a seriously difficult situation for other teams to top.
Yeah, I mean, number 2, we talk about the value of first round picks and how they're not created equal, right? If talking about San Antonio's draft capital before an hour ago isn't quite the same as now, especially in this draft. Even if they landed 3, I don't think we would be talking about it in the same light. And so I want to get that out of the way. Let's say they take the pick. We are both in line that they should take Dylan Harper regardless, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, like if they're keeping the pick, yes, they take Dylan. If they're keeping the pick.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like neither of us are so high on Ace or VJ or Khan or Trey Johnson or anybody else to feel like if San Antonio is keeping the number 2 pick, they should take those guys over Dylan Harper. You would agree?
I would not. No. I would not take anybody over Dylan here.
Okay. So like that to me just speaks to the draft. We've talked about this for months now. And that just makes that like even the number 2 pick in our eyes is that much more valuable than even if they got up to like, if they got up to 4, I don't think we'd be talking about this in the same light, whether it was trading it to Giannis or whatever, because I don't think it's as valuable. So it just them getting all the way to 2. I just live in the Giannis world right now because that's the news. It's like, okay, well, you can go to Milwaukee and start with Dylan Harper plus 14 plus, Steph Castle, who was last year's top 5 pick, and then whatever else you need. Like that's a great start compared to if you were still at, what were they supposed to be, 8 and 14 or whatever it was going to be. So I do think, to your point, San Antonio really holds a lot of the cards here at number 2 now, whether do we draft, and it is an interesting fit. Like this is what's fascinating to me about how this, like once we get past all the conspiracies and all of that and the shock of all of this, it's like Cooper's amazing, but it is an interesting fit with the Dallas current roster the way it is. Would have made a lot more sense if they had like Luka and the bigs, and this San Antonio fit with Dylan Harper, where they also just traded for a guy who like and drafted guys that, maybe this doesn't fit, perfectly well. So it makes it very interesting, at the top.
Can we stop to talk about the fit real quick?
Sure.
In terms of Dylan Harper with Fox, with Castle.
Yeah.
So the reason why I'm a little bit skeptical of that fit is that none of those guys are particularly good in terms of shooting the basketball off of the catch.
Sure.
Right. Like Castle, we know is not a great shooter. Dylan Harper's improving. I think Harper's probably, Fox is the best out of all of them right now because he's older, but like Harper's probably the best, like hits the highest ceiling of those guys as a shooter at some point, in my opinion. I don't know that having those 3 guys around Victor is the situation that makes the most sense when building around Victor at the end of the day. If you have Fox, you should be building your organization around the Fox, Wemby pick and pop, right? Or pick and roll. Really pick and pop so that Fox can get all the way to the rim, get downhill, be able to create those paint touches and that rim pressure. But now Harper's best ability is playing on the ball, right?
Yep.
Castle, I think, showed some really interesting things, being able to cut off the ball, being able to play off the ball a little bit. But if you're putting Castle off of the ball, I think what that risk is putting the center on Castle, putting a 4-man on Wemby, and then being able to play off of Castle and having a secondary help man on the interior. And that's what
he just became Josh Hart of the New York Knicks, essentially is what you just described, which is,
he's big, better than that, but he doesn't shoot it. It's a real concern.
The idea of a floor spacing 5, as GMAC always brings up to us, is that you can play 5 out and space the floor everywhere. And Steph Castle complicates that. And with Dylan Harper, him playing off the ball, I don't think his instincts are there yet. I have a lot of notes. I was looking through the notes, where did I have with this off the ball stuff? And it's missed a relocation. It didn't show a lot of movement, cutting, those instincts that can be developed and shown on film and all of that. But I don't know that he's naturally going to come into the NBA. And if you're playing him off of De'Aaron and Wemby, he's naturally relocating to the slot. He's naturally hammering to the corner. He's naturally cutting at the right time. Those things take time to be developed. And it's also, do you want him? Is that the main focus you want for Dylan Harper coming into the league, is his off the ball instincts when he's this primary on ball guy? It does make it very interesting. Now, defensively, it could be a lot of fun with Harper and Castle and Victor behind him and all of that. But offensively, I think it could be it could be clunky. It truly could.
Yeah. So that's where the trade part comes in to me. Look, I'll ask you this question. Knowing what we know about Steph Castle right now, would you rather have the number 2 overall pick or Steph Castle coming off of his rookie year? This is not, by the way, this is not a hard answer for me, and I love Castle.
I say my answer is Dylan Harper, but I wasn't as high on Castle.
To me, for sure. I would rather have Harper, and I had Castle at 3 in that draft. I love Castle. I still love Castle. I think Harper is a more interesting upside swing than Steph Castle. Do you try and swing it so that you keep Harper now moving forward, and then you maybe look to move Castle? Do you try to keep them both and make it all work together? They have a lot of decisions coming up here. I don't know what it's going to be. And to me, the thing is, though, that what getting the number 2 overall pick did, I actually think that they now spike Houston in terms of what they can offer and being able to offer the most, unless Houston is willing to put in Amen Thompson into a trade. That I think is what this does. If Houston's willing to put in Amen, I would rather have Amen than number 2 at this point, just given the uncertainty of Harper to some extent. Look, I'm just really high on Amen. That's the reality. But those 2 assets are really close,
because the Spurs have the best draft pick now of those 100%. 2 teams.
And to be clear, as someone just brought up in the comments, these are champagne problems. These are amazing, amazing things to be able to have to deal with if you're San Antonio, but they are worth talking through, and they're really interesting to talk through.
Yeah. I mean, yes, they're legitimate conversations. I don't think that it's unfair to talk about putting potentially 2 non-shooting perimeter off-ball shooting perimeter players on the court, and specifically one who's coming into the league as a primary initiator, not being able to play as a primary initiator. I think that's a fair conversation. And to be clear, both of us have already said we would still take Dylan Harper at number 2. I agree, because I think all of a sudden now, to what we were saying earlier, San Antonio has the best draft capital individual piece of anybody in the league, other than
outside of Dallas. And like
outside of Dallas.
I don't know.
Correct.
Like should we like have that conversation quickly? Like we've been like very steadfast. I think we literally on the show where like someone asked, would you trade Cooper? Or would Cooper or Giannis have more value? The answer I said was literally like, I don't know what Dallas would do because Dallas seems to be operating in a totally different realm, but nobody else I think would trade Cooper for Giannis.
Chris texted me and said, would you trade the number 1 pick for Luka Doncic? Would the Mavs trade number 1 to the Lakers?
Yeah. I mean, I just don't know what Dallas would do. I don't know I don't think the Lakers would do that.
No. It was just funny. Like that was the first thing he sent to me. So
I truly like this whole thing now becomes kind of a mess.
Giannis and AD is a weird fit, isn't it, Sam? Isn't Giannis and AD like as awesome as they would be to
make it work? Yeah. To be clear, I want to be very clear with people. I would not trade Cooper Flag for Giannis. I am operating as if Nico Harrison is an irrational actor, as has been proven over the last 6 months. And I don't know what Nico Harrison is going to do.
I hope he just takes Dylan Harper at 1 and like melts everybody's brains.
That's the funniest outcome, right?
And the Spurs can take Cooper at 2 and everybody's happy.
That's truly the funniest potential outcome. But I think that they just take Cooper at 1 and try to make it work is what I would guess here. And if that's the case, then you're right that the Spurs have the best draft capital to add and they have the rookie of the year.
Yeah.
And that, comparing them to the Rockets have an all-star in Şengün. They have a guy that I think was better than Şengün, through real stretches this year in a men. Like
Şengün's also on a new contract already though, Sam. Like that's the other thing is like when you're talking about, especially if it's a rebuilding team, like if you're the Bucks, depending on what way they want to go, do you want to take on, somebody that's entering their second contract already, as opposed to the rookie scale deals and all. I don't know. Maybe like the idea of Şengün and staying a little bit more competitive probably is enticing, but it is a factor.
Yeah. So let's just talk about the Spurs real quick in terms of like what an offer for Giannis looks like now, right? If this is a thing, which I'm not saying it is or it isn't, right? Like maybe they do just want to slow play this and build out the long way. To me, the structure of that deal is like number 2, number 14, a couple other firsts, and then probably Vassell and Keldon or your salary matching pieces. And the pressure point there for the Bucks is going to be Castle. They are going to ask for both number 2 and Castle. I can guarantee you that. The Spurs might say no to that, and I wouldn't necessarily blame them if that was the case. But that, I think, is what the negotiation would be, basically. I actually think that the deal structure, potentially adding in third teams, like maybe Portland wouldn't mind having Devin Vassell in order to take another jump next year to have like a stronger player there next to like Sheldon or Shaden Sharp and Scoot Henderson. And they'd be willing to give up like a first rounder, maybe they'd give up like 2 firsts to get off of the Jeremy Grant deal that, two of the swaps. I think they have swaps, right? Maybe they do something like Jeremy Grant and 2 of the swaps that the Bucks have moving forward, or Vassell. I don't know. I'm like spitballing here. And that allows the Bucks to get some of their own picks back. It allows, the Blazers to pick up a player they may or may not like. I don't know. I'm just kind of trying to come up with like random structures here that work. But I actually think that like the finances and the value now lines up really well for the Spurs in terms of just like, okay, number 2, number 14, a couple picks, Vassell and Keldon, and then the pressure point is just whether or not they move Castle.
I've thought about this also. So who has the Bucks? I know they're spread out. 26 is a swap. 27.
Are you talking about the Bucks?
The Bucks, yeah. So what I was spitballing today, Sam, was like, couldn't they go to a team and say, will this work? Like if let's live in the San Antonio world. Let's say they want 2 and they want Vassell, and Could they pull enough to say, go get our picks if you want to do business with us? Go get us back our 27, and then San Antonio has to go to. Is it New Orleans that owns the 27? Are they? Is that
26 and 27 are New Orleans? 28, 29, and 30, I believe, are the Blazers.
The Blazers. So, like, I just wonder if they could do that. Like, if they could just say, "Hey, San Antonio, with what you have, you go get us this, and make sure our picks are part of this deal," and then we'll. I wonder how valuable that would be to Milwaukee, I guess, as opposed to 2 San Antonio picks or whatever they have. Is it more valuable to them to go get their own? So now you're talking 2 plus Vassell and Johnson plus their stuff back from New Orleans, because San Antonio did whatever they needed to do to get those from New Orleans. Like, I just wonder if that's something Milwaukee could do. So now you're going, hey, we get this young talent in Dylan Harper, maybe 2 and 14, but we also have our own pick, so we can kind of stay the course here of this true rebuild. I just wonder if that's something they could push from a team, because it's so we've always talked about this with Giannis, right? Like, the teams that own the Bucks picks don't seem like the teams everybody's always talking about actually Giannis going directly to.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
it's the same idea of what you just said with Portland.
Yeah. The other thing that, like, I will just note here is, let's say that Oklahoma City gets knocked out, right? I wonder if the Spurs winning this number 2 pick would make them maybe try to push up their timeline a little bit as well, to be like, okay, let's try and catch them before, let's block Giannis and Wemby is like a thing and try to make it work on our end with Giannis. Like, that's what this does now. This creates like a number of chess moves. And that's why number 2 is a lot more interesting to me than number 1, honestly. Like, this creates so many chess moves that I don't really know where it goes.
Yeah, no. And the other thing was OKC didn't jump in, even though we thought for a second that they were going to. That's where they had, I guess they wouldn't have jumped in. They don't have a top, they don't have 7, 8, or 9 or something like that. So they don't even have the lottery pick this year, although I guess they have plenty of assets beyond. It was a really interesting lottery that I guess I hadn't thought through all of these different potential scenarios, but in one day we kind of knew the Giannis thing was potentially coming, but like really dropped today. And then you have these teams jump in. And like you said, then you have the playoffs aspect of it as well, right? Like, what ends up happening with OKC. I was listening to, I think it was the Low Post today, or I guess it's the Zach Lowe show, whatever. And I think they brought up Cleveland as an interesting name if they end up losing this series. Like, what did they end up doing? And like, what does Darius Garland and Jarrett Allen start? Like, where does that get you? Like, in terms of a starting point for this. So it's just like, it's not just, my point being, it's not just the lottery. It's also how some of these series are going to end up. Like, what if the Knicks end up blowing this series after going up 2-0? You mentioned the Thunder, again, the Cavs down 3-1. Just what happens to some of these teams, and how aggressive do they get if they get knocked out, and how do they kind of change course? So it's, the
funny thing is that like, hey, I'm not convinced the Bucks do this with Giannis yet. Like, totally. Like, I've been saying that from the jump here. Like, I'm not convinced the Bucks trade Giannis entirely yet. So we'll see. And maybe it's a different player. It might not be Giannis. It might be some other star that's available that, the Spurs end up trying to go out and get. Like, there are different permutations. Like, would Utah, look at something around Lowry with number 2 and number 5, right? Like, is there something that would work there? I don't know. I'm interested in a lot of different deals here.
The other part of this that's a lot of fun, back to the number 1 pick, is the Mavericks and the Bulls had that coin flip to decide, which at the time seemed insignificant, right? Because it's like, okay, you're either 11 or 12, and it's a 1.8 or 1.7.
I hadn't thought of that.
it's 1.8 or 1.7 chance at number one. Who really cares? But we are 50-50 chance away from talking about the Chicago Bulls with the number one pick right now.
Oh my God. That's amazing. I had not even considered that, Bryce. That's wild. That's truly crazy.